One of the most historical college conferences is falling apart, and this is probably going to be their last year. I'm obviously talking about the Pac-12. As today, Oregon and Washington agreed on a deal to join the UCLA and USC in the Big Ten after this year, forming the Big Ten Super Conference. Colorado's already agreed to go to the Big 12, but just like Dan Lanning said, who cares? Arizona is pretty much in the Big 12, and Arizona State and Utah are supposed to follow, which would leave the Pac-12 with just 4 teams remaining. But can the Pac-12 survive from this? And I think absolutely not. I think this is the last year of the Pac-12. It's going to be kind of their last dance unless they can somehow pull a bunch of teams out of here in the Mountain West. North Dakota State, South Dakota State have been dominating FCS the last 10-ish years, but it's going to be really hard to do. It's going to be hard to leave the Mountain West. Apparently, they've been going after SMU. I don't know why. It's not like it's that good of a school. It was probably the best school that the Big 12 didn't invite to replace Texas and Oklahoma, but I'm going to be talking about some of the different ways that Pac-12 teams are going to do in this video. Yeah, so these 5 already gone. These 3 will be gone. That leaves them with 4 teams: California, Stanford, Oregon State, Washington State. California and Stanford is a lot different than these 2 teams. They have options. The Big Ten has shown interest in them to add them as their 19th and 20th teams, forming a 20-team massive conference with 6 teams from the West Coast. They could also be FCS independents because of how smart their schools are, whatever. They have smart people. Oregon State and Washington State aren't big enough to become an independent or have the grade, whatever, the smart stuff, the math book. They're not a big enough school to get invited to a thing like the Big 10 or the Big 12, which would leave them just going to the Mountain West. But the only thing the Pac-12 could do is, first of all, get a TV deal done, not on Apple TV+. Nobody has that. They would need Arizona State and Utah State, because those 2 haven't done anything yet. They need these 4 teams to stay, and they could maybe try and get the Dakota States, maybe like SMU, San Diego State. A 10-team conference of like that would be good enough. It wouldn't be a Power 5 anymore, unless Utah could carry it in football and then basketball. Not a ton there, but that's really the only thing they can do, or else they're just going to fall apart after this year. Cal Stanford, if they were to join the independents, though, and leave the Big 12, it would be better for them than probably even staying in the Pac-12. Join Army, who's good in football. Notre Dame, obviously, is football. Basketball, no. Or basketball, there is a couple independents, but Notre Dame in the ACC. UConn, who was actually surprisingly good last year. UMass, who is probably still the worst college football team. But then you add in those 2. And then that would leave Oregon State and Washington State go to the Mountain West, which is what the new conference would look like. It would help the Mountain West a lot, but obviously this gets rid of all the bowl games, like the Civil War game between Oregon State, Oregon. Oops, I'm not supposed to say that. Washington State game. What's the Oregon State, Oregon game called? I don't know. And then, yeah, but these teams would just stay in their conferences. Pac-12, I don't know how long they've been around, at least over 100 years, would just fall apart, leaving their college football in 2 super conferences, the Big 12 and then the ACC, and then I guess the Mountain West after that. But I'm assuming all of these teams, obviously, they're gone. These 3 go to the Big 12. These 2 go to the Big 10, form the 20-team conference. These 2 join the Mountain West. This is what college football would look like. This would be the Big 10 mega conference. Try and compete with the SEC, who hasn't changed a ton, but obviously have Texas and Oklahoma from last summer. And this stuff is all based off 6:30 Eastern time. Stuff could change. More things could change. The ACC, I'm having say normal in this prediction, but they could change. It would be hard to get out. Florida State said they want to leave. Clemson, I think North Carolina, there's stuff about them going to the Big Ten just like last year. Hope they don't. I want to keep the North Carolina-Duke rivalry. And then after those 2 conferences, the Big 12 would be ahead of the ACC, but behind those 2, they'd have their 8 remaining teams. the teams that they've already gotten, BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston, who I'm pretty sure they probably regret getting like BYU and UCF now, to replace Texas and Oklahoma when they left last year. Add in these 4 teams to have a 16-team conference and would easily be the 3rd best conference. But yes, it's how college football is probably going to look. And next season, this is going to be the last year like this. Stuff changing, and the Pac-12 is done.